So hi everyone, my name is Zishan, but I am Ivalua team lead as well as solution architect from TSM. I will be going through the webinar today as well. With me, I've got Karen, who's our project director, as well as I've got Ryan Wells, who's going to be helping me answer any questions on the chat. So feel free to put in any questions on the chat, and we'll be able to answer those questions. And I've also got Sabrina with me, who's from our marketing team as well. Thank you. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen and go through the agenda first, and then we'll look at the demonstration. So let me just share my screen. Okay. We're going to go through and basically just give you an overview of what the EVA chat box is in Ivalua, which is powered by GenAI. And we'll go through a few use cases, how you can actually use the chat box within Ivalua, which is available. And then we'll cover the sourcing use cases today. I've got 3 sourcing use cases, which are AI based. So we'll cover RFP proofreader, as well as how you can actually quickly create a questionnaire. So in sourcing, you have to create different questionnaires. So how AI can actually help you create a draft questionnaire, and then you can actually add on top of it. And then we'll also cover supply discovery, meaning that when you're doing RFP process, you need to find suppliers, engage with new suppliers, how AI can actually help you find the right supplier who's approved in the system, as well as go out and find any new suppliers for you. In terms of other add-ons, we're going to be covering a quotation comparative statement add-on, which basically allows you to actually look at side-by-side comparison of different quotations that you've received. It's a new item that's been released very recently. We'll also look at how you could actually apply a workflow on the RFX preparation process, because some people may need to actually have certain approval before an RFP can actually be published. So we can have a workflow on that, as well as on the RFP awarding process. So when some people also have like an awarding team, so that workflow can help actually get the relevant authorization before you actually award somebody within the RFP process. And then there's a few things that Ivalua add-ons have added. In the past, we never had like a decision, who made the decision to award, as well as when they awarded it. So we have those dates now in the system and the name in the system to capture that, which is important for the order purposes, as well as in the past we never had like a notification being sent for shortlisted suppliers. So we see how we can also send that notification to the shortlisted supplier automatically through the system. There's a new feature, new add-on that's come up, which allows you to actually define a pre-qualified list. Some people have like a requirement where they need to actually have a supply for a particular type of supplies pre-qualified, and we'll see how it can help people who are actually engaging on the sourcing event to actually are able to quickly add any suppliers that are pre-qualified basically in the system. It's different to the fully onboarded supply. You may have suppliers who are fully onboarded in the system, but these are like quick pre-qualified supplies. You may choose to go with 3 or 4 suppliers, but you want to just pre-qualify them. So we'll see how we can actually do that in the system, and then how we can use that list in the sourcing process. We'll also look at 2 other things. Sourcing project order report that is out now, which basically gives you who did what at what time, basically on certain steps in sourcing event, as well as there's a summary report that I'm going to show you how you can use that to actually present it to somebody once you've done the sourcing event. If you want to send them a summary of the sourcing, there's a really good report that we can actually see that out of the box in the system as well. At the end, we'll cover the intake process, how you can actually leverage Ivalua's intake module to actually request a sourcing event. So your internal stakeholders can actually request a sourcing or request in the system, and that can have authorization. And then off the back of that, we can create a sourcing event in the system. So there's two intake processes that we have. One using an existing intake or legacy intake module, which is free of charge for all the existing customers. For any new customers, they would need to go on to the new advanced intake management solution, which uses AI as well as other KPIs that we're going to showcase in a minute. Okay, so let's have a look at the presentation. I'll go through those use cases one by one with you guys. Let me just switch this off. Okay. Okay, yeah, perfect. So in terms of the first use case, the chat, you can now use the chat functionality from this icon here on the top. So you can just simply click on that. And if there are any skills are mainly what you can actually use on certain areas. So for example, quick contract creation, those of you who've actually used were in this last session, you would have seen that how we can actually create a contract off the back of that. So these are different skills that you can use. But normally you could just start conversating with this GenAI like you would do with Copilot. So I'm going to ask a very simple question. I'm going to say, okay, has there been any, and it could be that you're onboarding a new supplier. Let's say you're onboarding a Tesla. Well, I'm just taking an example. You probably wouldn't do that. But as an example, if you're registering a supply, you can ask GenAI to tell me, okay, for example, are there any negative media events for the supply? And it can actually, okay, let me just refresh, sorry. It had to happen on my demonstration, yeah? Okay, just bear with me. I'd have to just refresh and put the same question on. And it's thinking, it will go out and see if there are any adverse media events. So you can see that there are some, stock issues. It's telling you market sentiment. You'll know about what's happening with Tesla. There are leadership issues as well. Okay, and then you can further conversate. You can say, okay, yeah, all right, that's fine. That's good to know. But are there any risk information that you can share with me? Okay, about this company. And it will then find out more information, and it will come back. Okay, yeah, it looks like there are some risk. There were some safety recalls for the Cybertrucks. I didn't know about that actually. So very recently it's been done. There has been a market value decline. So you can use GenAI to actually use it on your onboarding if needed. Okay, and you can ask any different question. Another use case you can use GenAI chat box is to actually analyze documents, which is a very popular use case. You can use it on contracts. So I can say, okay, can you look at that document and maybe summarize it for me? And then you can conversate with that document. So once the GenAI has actually read everything, so basically it's come back with a summary. Okay, what that is, it thinks it's a formal contract between these companies. So very well picked up. Any question is even actually guiding you. Okay, you can ask me different questions and I will answer them. Okay, so at this stage I'm going to just say, okay, can you key dates maybe and obligation, and it will, I don't need to put it as a question. I could even put it as a keyword, and it will say, okay, it kind of understands that it's actually, I'm trying to ask him to actually provide me with the key dates and obligations. So it's picked it up from the document you can see. So that's another use case you can use on the chat functionality. And there are other things that you can do. You can start chatting further. That is all good there as well. We can also create bespoke use cases. So for example, on contract, if you said, okay, if I'm doing something, then I can ask Eva to actually fill in a certain field for me. Okay. or fill in a certain information for me, or maybe create a report for me. So all of these use cases, we can actually look at it, with you. If you're interested in any new use cases to build, we're more than happy to actually engage with you guys. Just get in touch with Karen, who's our CSM, and she should be able to actually pick it up from there. Now, the next use case I want to go through is RFP proofreader. So this particular use case is really nice in the sense that Ivalua can actually proofread your RFP that you created and actually suggest any changes, in the wording or in the wording of the RFP. So if I go to my proofreader example, so what I mean by proofread is normally you would put a process, information for the RFP that you're actually running, also a summary of the RFP. And sometimes this summary needs to be very spot on so that suppliers can understand what they're going to be bidding for, okay, as opposed to the different options that you're going to ask them to fill in, okay. And Ivalua can actually help you with proofread that. And what it can do is it can look at the sourcing process and it can actually guide you with improvement. So if I click on this, it's going to look at what the process you put in, and it's going to check whether this process is okay. And it's going to suggest changing. So as soon as I've done this, it says, okay, here are a few issues that I've detected in the current RFP. There is lack of, okay, let us finish. There's lack of created background and introduction, okay? The document does not, provide any context to introduction of the sourcing project, So it can highlight certain issues, and it can also update that for you. So you can see that it's also changed some of the language as well, okay? And you can look at it. You can accept the changes if you want. So for example, I've accepted that change. If I want to do all of them in one go, I can just. It's like the Word document, so I can accept all of them. Okay. And same thing with summary. So it's a useful use case where we can actually do that proofreading very quickly here. And we can conversate further. You can ask GenAI to improve or suggest other things as well. Okay. The second use case I'm going to go through is where Ivalua can actually help you configure question. I get this question all the time from customers where they ask me, okay, Zishan, are there any sample questionnaires in Ivalua that I can use? And my answer has been always before the GenAI was that, oh no, we don't have any example. We can help you create your questionnaires. It's very easy to create, but we don't really have industry specific questionnaires in there. Now with GenAI being, intelligent enough, it knows everyone's in industry. You can kind of actually write down a description of what type of questionnaire you want to actually create, and it can create that draft for you. And then obviously you can chop and tail. So let's have a look at how we can do this. So when you're setting up a new questionnaire template in the system, you would normally go onto the template, and generally you wouldn't have anything in there. Yeah. So you would have to actually start creating section, subsection, and so on and so forth. What you can do is you can actually write a description instead. So this is what I've written here. I've said, okay, can you generate a GDPR compliant questionnaire covering data collection, processing, all those sections that I want. Okay. I can even give further context, if, for example, that GDPR needs to be relevant to UK, maybe there's a different GDPR in Europe to what we have. We may have changed slightly from the European, regulations. You can even say that. You can say, okay, can you be specific to UK-based questionnaire? Yeah, and it will use all of that information, and it will actually generate that questionnaire for us. So I'm going to do that, and it will take some time. And hopefully it'll come back. There you go. So it's come back now. If I go to the question sections now, you can see it's already filled in. So it's filled in what type of personal data you need to collect, how do you ensure the data is collected. So all of that based on the different questionnaire description I put in, it's actually put that in there for me. And if I don't like that, I can further enhance it, and then it will generate a template again. So that's how quickly we can actually now create some of these questionnaires, which were a bit of a task before in the past. Okay. The next one I want to go through is the supply discovery, or how we can find new supplies. Okay. And I'm going to go in an example here with the supply discovery. So I've got a RFP that I need to run, but before that, I need to find out who the supplies gonna be. And by the way, ignore this pre-qualified list for now. I'll cover that in a minute in another use case how we can use this. But this sourcing event, I've already got like 5 or 6 supplies selected, which I did by actually using this option, which you're familiar with already in Ivalua. But what I can do is I can use GenAI to suggest me other supplies. Okay, so I can say, okay, can you search and find a supply for me? And initially, what it's doing is it's gonna look at the sourcing event. It's gonna go in and look at past sourcing events, and it's gonna see whether it can actually find a new supply from the past sourcing event. So what it's saying is, okay, yeah, I can see you've got these already there, but I can suggest you another sourcing event. Why? Because this has been awarded in the past, yeah, multiple times. This supply has been used in the past multiple times, and I don't see that in your list. So maybe it's a good idea to actually add that supply, okay? And you can look at the supply details. And so it gives you suggestions to why you should add more supplies to the list based on looking at the past information within Ivalua. It could be that I've already looked at that before and I have not gone with that. So I'll just say, no, I don't want to actually select them for now, but I want you to go externally and find. Yeah. So I say, yeah, I want you to go in externally. And before I go externally, it's optional command, but it's always useful to put a command in. It's telling me, do you want me to consider anything before I go and look for these potential supplies? So what I can do is I can say, okay, please look for supplies in emerging markets like maybe China and India, because maybe I'm looking to secure a cheaper product, maybe. So it can go and then look target those countries maybe, and any other markets, and it can come back. I can even I could have even given another prompt to say, okay, look for China and India with those certifications maybe, yeah, because I need to be compliant with what I buy maybe as well. So I could even do that, and it will find those suppliers who are compliant with that regulation maybe. Okay, but at this stage, it's telling me, by the way, these supplies you can go with, okay, if you wanted to, based out of or India and China, and these are the why I'm actually recommending these, okay, and then you can add them, but I'm not going to do that. But you can see how we can use this to actually add those supplies to our list here. It will automatically create that. If it's a new supply, it will create it as a registered supply, and then you can onboard them if needed. But at this stage, you can just engage with them. That is also possible. Okay, so that covers our Gen AI add-ons that are available within sourcing. The next, I'm gonna cover other add-ons which are useful. The first one I'm gonna cover is the quotation comparative statement add-on that's been released. Okay, and what that is. So that is effectively a new tab. I value have added a new tab, which will allow you to actually compare round by round. Yeah, so you could say, okay, round one we went with, let's say, 3 suppliers, yeah, and they came back with different prices and different options. Then in the next round or the final round, we actually engage with the 2 shortlisted supply, and this is what we got. And you can use the information to create a comparative a report, basically. Okay, and that report is, if I just bring it here, sorry. Now, in my example, by the way, I didn't have another round, but usually when you have another round, it will give you a bit more information. But what, in a nutshell, it will give you is by supply and by round, it will basically tell you what was the price, okay, what was the total initial bid from them, okay, and what was their final bid, meaning that the final round, how much they actually produced, and you can then compare from one round to the other round how much you made savings, okay, and then at the end it will also give you the best case scenario, okay, of the price that you received. So it's kind of an analysis report that you can use, which I think is useful when you're comparing from round to round as an exercise. Okay, so that's this one, very easy to use. Now, the next two are more around the workflow because historically in Ivalua, all of these steps do not have a workflow behind it. There's no natural step process. But most people would want some sort of uh, a workflow, so to speak, on a preparation. I know one of our clients, they went live, uh, and they had some issues where certain documentation was sent to the supplier, okay, by mistake, yeah, because they didn't have any review process in between, okay, and with having that workflow, somebody can actually prepare the RFX. They can actually, create the grade. They can actually list all the documentation, list why I'm going to go with on this round, and then they can submit it for approval, meaning that it's actually all reviewed, this RFX, before it actually goes out to the supplier. Okay, so you don't have those issues. Basically, it's always good to have second pair of eyes looking at that. So I think this is useful if we can have that. Anyone who's got any requirements around that, let us know. We can engage with you. The second workflow generally is asked at the awarding stage because some people even have a awarding committee, and once they look at that review, so the committee actually reviews it, or maybe somebody reviews it, and then it needs to be signed out by somebody before it's awarded. So we can also use that. So if I just go to the RFP award scenario, and that is generally at the award side of thing, okay, and where you might shortlist certain suppliers, okay, and you might award somebody, okay. And what you can do is once you've done that, you can actually send it off to a workflow. So the workflow could be the first stage is maybe somebody needs to be reviewed, and then it goes to somebody to actually award it. So once they awarded this, then they can actually basically approve that award as well. So it's very useful to have it on the award stage as well, so that you have that approval mechanism in sourcing as well. Now, a couple of other things you've noticed that, and that is one of the add-ons, is to actually add who made the decision. So you can see when I award this, it will record the fact I did the awarding. Okay, I made that decision and what date and time I made that decision to award them. Okay. Now, also, if you shortlisted somebody, it will also record when I actually shortlisted as well. Okay. And then there's also another add-on which will actually allow you to actually see when you actually sent a shortlisted notification. So what you can do is you can shortlist suppliers. Okay, so these two shortlisted suppliers, and then you can hit that button to actually notify the supplier that they've been shortlisted. And when they are shortlisted, they receive an email like this. So so you can see I've sent 2 emails to those 2 supplier contacts, and you will see that this is how the email looks like. Okay, we would like to inform you that you've been shortlisted. Yeah, and that email can be changed, as we all know. In Ivalua, that can be changed, but this is kind of really nice to actually have that from an order point of view. You have the workflow, you have the key dates audited in the system as well. Okay, so the next one I want to show you is in Ivalua, we can have summary or audit, and Ivalua is still developing this, by the way. It's meant to be an Excel file, but I have it in PDF for some reason, but it's meant to be an Excel file. But this is it will actually extract. So if I just click on that, and if I just open this up, if I scroll down, it will basically by round, by proposal, okay, it will actually tell me if anything has changed, okay. So for example, if it's telling me NDA was submitted by who, okay, and what time, okay. So there are key areas which will actually monitor. So for example, was the proposal created? Who created the proposal when they created it? When the proposal was modified, for example, all of that history. So if the status of the RFP changed, okay, and who changed that status. So all of that is recorded and it's still in progress, but you can see that audit report will be quite useful for auditors, okay. Another one we can actually use is a summary report, which those of you who are on version 182, that might already be there, okay. But if you're not, we can add it. That is available 180 onward. So if I click on this, it kind of gives you a summary of the whole sourcing event, okay, to what's involved in this. So, for example, the general information, the key dates, who the sourcing team is, what are the different currencies we actually engaged on that sourcing event, whether we actually used a particular exchange rate. This was GBP, so there's no exchange rate. But if there was exchange rate we pegged, it will show that here as well. Any lots or rounds we went through, how many went through, all of that will be there. Any awarding we did in any of the lots or rounds, it will tell you that. Who were the bidders in those rounds or lots? Were they selected or not? Were they consulted? All of that information, the risk and performance information, and then also what did we ask them to actually provide the proposal for? Okay. And all the other information like the activity, any allocations, any supply proposals, again, round by round, it actually gives you that. So it's a nice summary report which we can use and send it to anyone who's not using our system. We can send it to external stakeholders to actually look at that. Okay. And then lastly, on the use cases, on the add-ons, I wanted to go through the pre-qualified list. Now, this is a new feature in Ivalua as an add-on. Some people, they like to actually pre-qualify their supplies, not fully, but like just for that round. Yeah. Let's say for that sourcing event, I want to pre-qualify certain supplies, and then I want my sourcing managers to actually to be able to use those supplies very quickly. So the way it works is you would have like a sourcing pre-qualified list, okay? And that pre-qualified list, you can create a new list if you want, which is basically what it is a pre-qualified group. So you can say, I'm going to be pre-qualifying, let's say somebody for IT hardware or something, yeah? That's going to be my group. And then I can add or invite all these supplies into that pre-qualified list. And what will happen is they will be sent a predefined questionnaire, which we can configure. I don't need to go through that now, but you know how to configure questionnaire now. So that questionnaire would be, a specialized questionnaire or pre-qualified questionnaire for that category maybe, okay? And what will happen is when you select all those suppliers that you're going to engage with, they will be sent a questionnaire, okay? That questionnaire, they will fill this in, and then you will review it. And because there's a workflow behind that, you will qualify them, okay? And that's why they are qualified. Some you may not qualify them, they will not be on the list, okay? And once you've pre-qualified them, what will happen is that when somebody is actually come in to actually look at adding a supply to their list, so they are engaged, they need to engage with that, okay? They can actually select that, and it will tell them all these pre-qualified supplies, and you can just hit this button, and the system will actually add those supplies, pre-qualified supplies for you in the list for you, okay? So it can be quite easy in that sense. I'm going to just remove these for now because I don't want them in here, but you get my point. You can add more supplies who are pre-qualified, and you can add them to that list. So at least anyone who's looking at it, they know why you use that. So maybe 10 supplies were there. I just delete some of them, I use one of them from the list maybe. Okay, so I think it can be quite useful for some people. Meanwhile, is there any questions? I've got two more use cases, but are there any questions, Ryan, that you may want me to answer, or any questions that you've already answered that you want my input? You there, Ryan?
Yeah, sorry, that was on mute. There's no questions in the chat, so
no questions so far. Okay, all right. I must be answering all those questions that everyone had. Okay. So lastly, intake process. People call it a different process, sourcing initiation form. Some people call it the PIF. There's different forms people have internally. So that's more of an internal process before we actually engage on a tendering event. Okay. Like I said, we have two types of intake modules. One is free of charge for existing customers only, which is, and some of you already using that. So it's more like this one here. So we can go in there to browse. I've already got one set up, but you can simply basically create one. And when you create it, it will ask you to actually basically say, okay, what do you want to request? So in this case, I want to request a sourcing event to be set up. If you're not sure, you can always go look at existing browse sourcing event, or you can just say, no, I want to actually request a new sourcing event, and you can say, okay, what type of sourcing events? Let's say it's test new Milan office setup, maybe it needs to be done. What type of sourcing event it's going to be? It's going to be a strategic sourcing event. I can suggest supplies when we pick up a few. I can tell which legal company it's for, which category this is for. Okay. And then the reason, yeah. So I can put reasons for why I'm requesting that sort of sourcing to be done. Okay. So I can save this, and we can add more fields. That can be part of the scope. If we were to implement this for you, we can add more fields that you want in there. And then what happens is it's got a workflow behind that. Similarly, and that workflow can be changed. We all know that we can change that workflow, but you can submit this for approval, which is like the internal approval process. Okay, so the commodity manager, whoever, they can look at this, they can approve it or reject it back, and once it's approved by all the stakeholders, okay, and then what will happen is the system will convert that into a sourcing event. You can see it's actually created a sourcing event, and it's actually transferred all of that information onto the sourcing event. So for example, I did say that I'm going to be engaging with these 3 suppliers. It automatically added that to the suggested supply list. And then you can add and chop and tell whatever you want to do on top of that. So that's one module that we have available. Okay. The other one is the new one, which Ivalua wants to take on and implement for new customers, and even for existing customers, to be honest. It has a license implication, okay, because it's got more bells and whistles. You'll see what I mean by that. The free of charge module does not have any reporting and stuff. You have to create some of them already. The new module has some dashboarding and all that, albeit I don't have the data on my demo environment, but you'll have things like, total number of intake form in progress, draft, things that I've completed, maybe total purchase amount, how much time it's taken for it to actually complete the intake process, and any other KPIs, how many intakes were per month, how many intakes by type, by organization. All of that can be KPI'd on your dashboard nicely, yeah. And then in terms of what else this module can do, we can enhance this, not only those 3 options that we saw, the sourcing and the supply request and contract request. You can even further enhance it to actually have other type of requests. You can say, okay, I want to buy something, or it could be a general inquiry. So you can have not just for those type, you can have it for many other different use cases. We can build these forms for you, okay? But as a starting point, you get sort of the same sort of ones. Like for example, you'll get a request to review a contract, request to for a new supply, request for a new sourcing event. Okay, so if I look at the sourcing event, you can see it's got more statuses. So it's telling me that has been a sourcing event created. The next step is RFP to be published. So in the in the in the free of charge version, you don't really get that visibility after the request. You don't see whether what's happening on that sourcing event or what's happening on that supply that I've requested. With this module, you have more visibility. So for example, if I go in there, I did fill in pretty much the same sort of information you saw on the other form that I've filled in, okay? And we can add more things to it. And there was a workflow behind that. At the moment, it's actually in progress, but you can see that it's got more information. So once I prepare the RFP, okay, RFX, it will be completed. Yeah, once I sent it or awarded. When it's published, I will see the task here. I'll see who it's done it, and I've got a link. I can go directly to that link and see where it is if I've got all access to it. Okay. What I can also do is if somebody is taking more time and I want to chat with them, I can also send them a message through the chat option as well if needed. Okay, I can send them a message, and then they can actually basically reply to you where they are with. So it basically gives them more visibility, so to speak. So that's pretty much on the sourcing. Are there any tips and tricks I can go through with you while we have time? I think tips would be, I don't know if anyone used the schedule, but I find it very useful when it comes to looking at it on a high point of view. So if I've got like 10 different sourcing events running, and if I want to look at where they are with their different key dates, it's quite useful. But looking at it in a Gantt diagram type sort of thing, yeah. So it can tell me when it's going to finish and if there are any milestones. For example, this one, a contract was awarded off the back of this sourcing event. So I find that very useful. Those of you who are on version 180 and above, you'll find that we also have this browse RFX grid now, which is effectively not on the sourcing event option, but on the RFP level. And these options are very useful. From there, you can actually close an RFX, you can send a reminder, you can access the details, and there are other KPIs. So it's telling you on this RFP, we had 3 proposals. So all of these are drillable. You can click on them. So for example, if I click on that, it will take me straight to the proposal section that has been provided. So I find that very useful as well. And then Ivalua has also released my sourcing. My demo environment does not have data, unfortunately, on this one, but that sourcing will actually give you by category different KPIs. Okay, that is only available in version 182, and you're more than welcome to look at it. As long as the data is there, you should be able to look at top suppliers selected for that category in the sourcing event, top 10 suppliers, by another category, I think, and there's other KPIs as well. And you can create a new sourcing event directly from here if needed as well. In terms of other tips, any tasks that are assigned to you, you should see them in the here. Okay, so you should be able to see any tasks that are assigned to you from the sourcing event. So, for example, requirement gathering. So let's say you need to actually do the I don't know, RFP. Prepare RFP step is assigned to you. One of the tips is that this is in Ivalua, which is fine. You get alerts and stuff, but you can also add it to your calendar if you need to by using this option. So I could just export this, and it actually creates a V calendar file which I can open, and it will add it to my calendar as well, which is quite useful, I think, if you're looking at that. But you can just quickly go in that and do your task, and it will then come off your task list. That pretty much concludes. Let me just go back to my the list. So that concludes all the use cases. There's a couple of other things I want to go through. In terms of if you like any of the add-ons and if you want to actually implement them, you need to be at least on version 180. to go on. Okay, some may require license, so you can see all of these do not require a license apart from intake management. Okay, some may require some workflow to be configured. Okay, and some might be just installing it with some options, and it should be there and then for you. For Eva, you have to sign an NDA. I think Karen has already sent to some of you who are existing customers. I don't know if Karen, you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, the T's and C's have been
Yeah,
sent out, so we just need to get them signed by everybody before we can enable it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then lastly, what's coming next? These are the different sessions we're going to have next. The next one going to be just AI focused mainly. However, there are different ones. We took some advice from last couple of sessions. You wanted to look at employee expenses, maybe module. You wanted to look at maybe platform tricks. I'm more than flexible on changing the order. I'm more than happy to have some suggestions from the audience. Just put it in the chat or send us an email to what else you may want to include in the next couple of sessions, and we can always rearrange that, and we can add to this list as well. You are more than welcome to come on the mic, and if you have any questions or say something, you can also do that if the mic is available. I don't know, Sabrina, we can enable the mics if anyone wants to say. If not, if there are any questions on the chat, we can always go through there. If not, we can conclude this session. I'd like to thank you again for joining the session, and I hope that you can join our next couple of sessions as well.